So former President Trump apparently is gaining with more young American voters, cutting President Biden's lead among 18 to 29-year-old registered voters by more than 20 points. That's a big move when you compare a recent New York Times Siena college poll to the 2020 election results. Now let's take a look at the older voters. President Biden doing better with voters 65 and over. He now leads the former president by 9 points after he lost seniors by 3 points back in 2020. First Lady Jill Biden making a pitch to older voters in battleground Wisconsin yesterday, kicking off what the campaign is calling Seniors for Biden-Harris. Watch.
Joe isn't one of the most effective presidents of our lives in spite of his age, but because of it.
Let's bring in Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary for President George W. Bush, Kimberly Strassel, Wall Street Journal opinion columnist, and Democrat strategist Leslie Marshall, all are Fox News contributors. Great to have you with us today. Ari, let me start with you. Why do you think we're seeing that dynamic in the polling, that Biden is gaining with older voters and Trump is gaining with younger voters, when last time around their strengths were the opposite?
Yeah, well, one, I wouldn't get locked in on this. Politics is fluid, and so let's see what continuing polls show to see if this is an enduring trend. But having said that, politics, if you just think it's locked into the past, you're going to make a mistake about the future. And let me give you some numbers that prove that point, Martha. When it comes to education, this is how people change over the years. College graduates used to be the bedrock of the Republican Party. No longer. When George H.W. Bush ran and won in 1988, college graduates went 62% for George H.W. Bush. W. Bush got only 51% when he ran, and Donald Trump lost college graduates. People making less than $30,000, lower income voters, Mitt Romney lost them by 28 percentage points. Donald Trump lost them by only 8 percentage points. So times change, trends change, and if you're a good candidate, what you need to do is lock down your wins so you stop the loss among seniors and pick off the other guy's coalition, the young voters.
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why you hear the former President Trump talking a lot about not touching Social Security or Medicare. And I think you're going to hear this at the debate for sure on June 27th, the debate over that. Leslie, I want to show you this from the Washington Post, because for a while we were hearing how formidable the TikTok Biden machine was going to be. And this is in the Washington Post yesterday. Aidan Cohen Murphy, 20 years old, founder of a coalition once known as TikTok for Biden, now called Gen Z for Change. Biden is out of step with young people on a number of issues. The frustrations of young progressive leaders are a barometer of widespread dissatisfaction among Gen Z voters. I would imagine that the Israel-Hamas issue, Leslie, has quite a bit to do with that.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, I rarely agree with Ari, but I would agree that you don't put too much stock in this one poll, because this certainly is very fluid. I would say Joe Biden is doing well with seniors, especially because Republicans do constantly threat to cut, slash, do away with Social Security and Medicare. We also see a larger population of older people every year because of baby boomers. So they're a significant voting bloc. They're also a significant answer robocalls bloc when it comes to polling and the methodology used in these polls. When it comes to the youth, it does concern me, some of these numbers. And the reason is you're talking about a 20% advantage that the president had in the last general election. And I have seen that come down. The top 3 issues among this voting bloc, Gen Z, are gag, guns, abortion, and Gaza. So to your point, Martha, that makes up approximately 30% or more of the issue they care about. But it also makes me rack my brain, because if you want a ceasefire, or you want a 2-state solution, or you want more sympathy for the plight of the Palestinian people in Gaza, Joe Biden's your guy, not Donald Trump. So it'll be curious to see what happens. Also, when you look at who is registering, the Gen Z voters are overwhelmingly registering either as independents or Democratic voters, more so than Republicans. So I'd like to see some more polls come out before I get too worried about this.
Understood. Kim Strassel, let me turn to you. You wrote a very interesting piece on the people that Trump is backing now versus 2022. And I think one of the comments that we heard a lot of yesterday when he was on the Hill and he spoke there was that the message was more disciplined, very targeted, pretty policy oriented. And he also said in his interview with Aisha Hasni, when she asked him about Larry Hogan, do you support him? He said, oh, yeah, of course I do. Those two have not gotten along that well in the past, as we know. So here's a look at the Trump endorsements in 2022, just a handful of them. Mehmet Oz, Herschel Walker, and Blake Masters. These are all Senate races. This time around, he's backing David McCormick, who lost in the primary to Oz, Mike Rogers, and Larry Hogan, the governor of Maryland. So what's happening differently this time around? How do you see it, Kimberly?
Well, you use the word discipline, Martha, and it hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but endless stories in 2022 about the endorsement Trump gave to very flawed candidates who ended up losing those races. They are not doing that this time around. If you look at the people that he has endorsed in Nevada, in Montana, those ones that you just put up, they are ones that everyone has agreed are the best position to win. It doesn't mean that they will, but they are not notably the folks that were kind of the rowdier, loudmouth participants in the primary who were playing up their MAGA credentials and very much hoping they'd get the endorsement on the basis of that. He's been listening to a lot of advisors. You see it happening in the House as well, too, with a lot of candidates, including sitting incumbents, who some of whom have even been critical of Trump in the past, but he either endorsed them or decided to stay neutral in their races because he's understood that even if he wins the presidency, he's not going to get a great deal done if he's got a Democratic Senate and or a Democratic House.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that he really needs to push for if he wants to have any success, because he's only going to be there for 4 years. So it would be, sort of at the starting gate. Ari, quick thought on that, on the people that he's endorsing this time around and supporting, and how much wider a net it is.
Yeah, it really struck me in his interview with Aisha Hasni yesterday up on Capitol Hill when he said that he's for the team. You heard Donald Trump really talking in broader terms than just himself. And doing so with that sense of discipline. I thought that was a striking and strong performance by the president. It's kind of words you want to hear.
Leslie, real quick on, obviously how important these Senate races are. It looks like a Republican favorable year for the Senate, but, you never know.
Yeah, you definitely never know. I would say I was surprised because it's definitely a change from the former I, me, I, and the team. And I think that's a smart thing for anybody running for president and anybody who's considered to be the leader of the party to do. So I think it's actually a wise decision politically for him to do that.
All right, big debate coming up on June 27th, which we'll be covering live. Obviously, that's a pivotal moment in all of this as we move into the really heated season of campaigning. Thank you all. Great to have you here today. Leslie, Kimberly, and Ari, have a great weekend.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.